Momentum. Two passionate and busy moms sharing the quest to achieve entrepreneurial success.
Hi, welcome back. It's Ariella Vaccarino
and Theresa Ofstad.
and we are from
Momentum.
And we're super excited this week. We have a great guest coming on, and we're here and we're celebrating Asian American Heritage Month. And I'm so excited that we're on top of this and we're doing it.
Yes. And what's so special about that, we're going to introduce you to our guest in just a moment. But what's so special about that is she and I know each other from a past, business life that we were in together. And she reached out to me randomly and said, hey, if you need somebody to represent Asian American, Heritage Month, I'd love to share my story. And coincidentally, that is the exact date that this episode would launch.
Yes,
so
naturally, like
it was meant to be.
Yeah, we're so excited about it. And we're also, it keeps us in mind that we're not just moms, we're not just people with entrepreneurs. We come with cultures and we come with religions and we come with all sorts of things that make us who we are and make us unique and diverse. And I love that as a community, but we still are moms and we still are mompreneurs. So we can come together and support each other, all the diversity, and celebrate it.
Absolutely. Diversity within cultures, diversity within businesses. We have all types of businesses we like to highlight.
Love it.
But let's get to our guest today.
Who is she?
Yes.
Okay.
So Ana Battung and I know each other when we used to work in hospitality. We both worked for Hilton.
Nice.
We didn't work for the same location, but what happens in hospitality is there's a lot of times events and opportunities to bring in clients, to highlight your city, your hotel, and many times they'll do it together as a brand. And so we would attend these events together, and that's how we know each other. But let's get to her current job, because we are so excited to hear what you're doing now, Ana. And I'm just really proud of what you've accomplished. So she is the founder of MCSQ Consulting LLC. And this is a business that strategizes and helps increase business development. She's still adding in that meetings and events experience that she has by helping people with virtual, hybrid, and in-person meetings, events, and conferences. And she does like to focus through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm really proud of what you're doing, Ana. And if you could just share with us more of what your company does.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you both ladies for having me here. And what a great way to start Asian Pacific Heritage Month, and so excited to be here with you both. As Theresa said, I do all those things. I really work on sales and business development, focus on diversity and inclusion for companies, and really how to integrate that within their companies and their culture. So not just an initiative, but honestly, how do we make this what we stand for in our DNA? And then also, of course, working with meetings and events. Theresa, we never let that out of our system. Once we're in hospitality, we stay hospitality strong, right? So I am still working with customers in that space as well. So thank you for having me here.
And where are you located?
I am here in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
When Theresa and I met, I was in California at the time. We recently moved here, I'd say in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. So this is now our home.
All right. So we're having a different bit of weather today, I'm assuming. I know we're having a lovely day here in Southern California. How's it out there?
Yeah, no need to rub it in, Ariella. I love you, but it's cold over here. I definitely miss my ocean breezes and palm trees and sunshine. When I lived in California, I would tell my boys, this is what we pay for, gentlemen. So now we're in Chicago and they get it.
Here in LA, it gets cold, like it's 70, 60 degrees. What's the temperature there today?
It is 30 something, but
during the day?
Yes, during the day, but feels a little less than that because it's windy. So it feels like 30 versus 35. So definitely cold.
So how old are your kids? What kind of kids you got?
So I have two boys. I have two teenage boys. One is 15. He's a sophomore in high school. And one is 13, graduating from 8th grade. So two teenage boys definitely keep us busy. They're very active in sports, as you all probably know. Social life and everything that goes with being a teenage boy. But I love them.
Yes, as we all love our kids.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. And I know that one of the things you mentioned about being an entrepreneur is giving you that flexibility to do it as a mom. Can you share with us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I'll go into a little bit of the story of
Yeah, I'd
how
love
the
to hear it.
company even came to be. So through the pandemic, obviously the hospitality industry was really impacted by no one traveling, no one having meetings. What was, that's the bulk of what we do. And of course, with that, I was laid off from my company in June of 2020.
Yeah, I was laid off
Thankfully,
in April, so we were on the
So
same
you know.
page at that
Yeah.
time. I know how that feels. Yes,
Yeah.
and
Us and
you're
our-
right. It completely
Yeah.
shut down.
And just so you know, I'm a voice teacher, and the pandemic was just the worst thing possible for voice lessons with masks and everything. So I definitely shut down myself for a while.
Yeah. So, but you reinvented yourself.
Yeah.
I did. So I was laid off in June and actually started this company in July. Thankfully, I had customers who remembered all those things that you mentioned, Theresa, that we provide for services and said, Anna, can you help us with this? Or you have experience with diversity, you have experience with meetings and sales. Can you help us? And I said, what am I going to do with all this? Like, I don't know what's happening. We just moved to Chicago. I wasn't sure what was going to look like now that I didn't have a job. We just bought a house, all the justs, right? All the things.
So all of that happened before you started your company. So
Yes.
you got
Well,
so you made a choice to move to Chicago, but it wasn't because of work. Oh, so this is, wow, that's a lot. It's a lot at once.
A lot
It
of
was a lot.
change all at once.
Right. Well, work was here. So our corporate headquarters is here in Chicago.
Mhm.
So we did move for that. But once the pandemic hit, it was like, okay, so now what? Right.
Yeah.
So thankfully I had customers reach out to me. And I remember I said, there's got to be a way to manage this. Like maybe I'll just start my own company. We'll see where this goes. I don't know. Who knows? And
Had you thought about doing it before? Had you ever
I had
thought?
not.
Oh, you hadn't.
Never had
Wow.
I thought of it prior to this. But with the amount of people that were coming to me for support or for services, it was the right thing to do at the time. So I love sharing the story that, so many people went through change through the pandemic. And I said,
Yes.
I could have sat at home, I could have watched HGTV all day and eaten bonbons and felt sorry for myself. But, as moms, we teach our kids, you don't make the basket, suck it up and try harder. You don't, you're down on yourself for things, find a different way to do it. Right.
Yes.
So what kind of lesson would I be teaching my children if I didn't do the same? So thankfully, all this was coming together. Even coming up with the name of the company, I said, all right, it was a family discussion around the table. What are we going to call it? I'd love to name it after my kids. So that's the story. So MCSQ, MC squared, as you said, Theresa, is named after my children. So it's Mathew Christian and Michael Conrad. So MC squared, MCSQ. And that's kind of how it started. And we looked at the logos together. We looked at what is this going to mean? What does that look like? And to see how excited they are and how proud of me they are 2 years later. The work that I've done to make this happen and create this company after they were both here actually when I got the news that I was no longer with the company I was with, that I had been with for 15 years. And I remember, I keep jumping around, but I remember the story and telling them I was no longer there. And they just looked at me with these eyes, like, oh, like, it's okay, Mama, what are you going to do? Like, how are you? And to be where we are today through this journey together is quite a story. So I mean, I tell people all the time, we teach our children lessons. And for me to be able to teach them this and still be here to talk about it and love it is definitely a story as a mom.
Wow. I love it. I love your story. And, I think we kind of all have some similar stories during the pandemic and pivoting and what's the next phase going to look like. And, I share my story in some other episodes, but, like I said, I was laid off April 2020 as well. And, when the pandemic first hit, we were told, don't worry, things are going to be fine. We're going to readjust some figures. We're not getting rid of the team. And less than a month later, we were all called in on a conference and said, okay, we have to shut down. We have to lay off 90 people from an organization that only had about 130 people. So they kept only a few to just keep it running during that time. But they're rebuilding now too. And, but in the meantime, I've chose a completely different field. And even just yesterday, I saw so many posts of my former colleagues and what they're doing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I miss you guys so much.
Yeah.
But I so love what I'm doing now. So, it was a great experience I got to go through. I worked in hospitality for many years, and my previous job was 8 years with LA Tourism and Convention Board, and I loved it. But I also love what I'm doing now. And like you said, teaching our kids that there is a way to figure out the plan. There is a way to pivot. There is a way to develop something like this, and create something from scratch. I mean, a lot of the things that Ariella and I have done and we've talked about on various episodes is, creating something. And now
this
you
whole
have
podcast
this.
is from scratch, and our whole journey, and we've documented it through the podcast. That's kind of been what we've done. And all of a sudden now we actually have a podcast, a working podcast. And now we're pivoting and we're figuring out what we want to do with it now, because obviously we've figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
And
it's
having
so exciting. We got to keep it going.
Yeah. Having people on like you, it's this is like the next step for us.
Yes.
It's so great.
Yes. Interviewing fantastic moms who figured out all sorts of businesses. We really want to highlight what you guys are doing, because it started with sharing our journey, but we really want to share the journey of other moms and what they go through, and the diversity of businesses that have been created.
Yeah. And it seems to me that, and I don't know that we've encountered you're an entrepreneurial by circumstance. So this isn't, a lot of the people we talk to is like, since I've been young, or I grew up in a family where, or something, but yours that wasn't your dream, but it presented itself right in front of you, and you opened the door. I mean, this is amazing. And so that's why I think that's what I want to title her, the entrepreneurial by circumstance, because that's really pretty fascinating. So, all right, let's hear about your business. Let's hear what you're doing.
Sure. So I really am helping a lot of companies, primarily startup companies, who maybe don't have a sales staff or business development or marketing, helping them to understand KPI metrics, how to elevate their business, how to come up with processes to better
Was that
develop.
English? The KPI was that?
Not everybody on this podcast is
performance
business-minded.
indicators. Yeah.
Can you say it one more time?
Key performance indicators. So
Key
KPIs.
performance indicators.
The metrics of
I
how
had to
they
explain to her what a CRM was too, customer relation management system.
Yeah. Listen, I was an opera singer turned voice teacher turned, I don't know. So go on.
We have all sorts of moms on this
Oh my
show.
gosh, so many acronyms. But really helping companies to excel and do more with their businesses. As I said earlier, I've done a lot with diversity, equity, inclusion. In my former past life, I did a lot in terms of elevating companies with their diversity and how to put those initiatives within their culture and DNA. So anything that has to do with diversity and making it more an inclusive workplace, I help companies understand what that looks like and how to build their companies to become what they want to be as an equitable resource for their employees and for their customers.
So are you creating videos for them or just like information, or how do you do that?
It's more like information and also looking at the structure of their office. So if everyone around the room looks like you, is that really what you want, right?
Yeah.
Are you really getting a diversified, knowledgeable sense of what you should do to elevate your company? If everyone looks the same, everyone speaks the same, everyone comes from the same background. So I come in and help them understand, how can we do things differently? How can you do that internally and externally facing? So in turn, if customers see, okay, they get me, they understand my business, they see where we're coming from and understand what's important from a diversity standpoint, then that helps them to elevate their business, because customers want to do business with companies that understand and get them, if that makes sense.
So how did that happen? So you were laid off, and then you started getting calls from people who knew you, but then how did it turn into this? I mean, this is such a specific thing.
So in my previous work life, I did a lot of work elevating our company DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, to elevate our company and what we were doing. And that was my exact job. I was speaking with customers saying, here is what we are doing in this workplace. Here is why you want to do business with us, because we get you, we hear you, we understand you, we are on the same page as you, and we want to elevate our business with customers, diverse customers like you. So a lot of the people that I work with now worked with me in my past job and understood that the work that I was doing mattered. And the work that I did actually elevated our company. So they wanted to bring me on board to say, Anna, help us do better. Help us to understand how we can make this a part of who we are. So,
And there wasn't an issue with the fact that you had been working for Hilton doing that. Now they're asking you to do that. Was there any sort of, there was no problem with that?
no problems whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially after you're being laid off. From
No,
the
I know. I
company.
just
Then
didn't know
it's
how it
kind
really
of like,
works in the
okay,
business
all
world.
ties are severed there. Let's move on and figure out how
Yeah.
to capitalize on the work you had
Sure.
been doing.
Right.
One of the things I do want to point out is that you were recently nominated for Smart Meetings, Smart Women in Meetings for 2023.
Wow.
And not a lot of people outside the industry would know what that means. But Smart Meetings, they really focus on visionaries and industry leaders to entrepreneurs, stellar performers, innovators, rising stars, and highlighting them within the industry, people who have opened doors and created creativity and passion and drive. I mean, these are all the things they look for when they select a nominee for this award. And I actually know a couple past winners myself. And
Wow.
what was awesome is that, I have to say, I'm going to just shout out her name, Mariles Krok. I know you know who
Yes.
that person
She's
is. So
amazing.
she and I were colleagues on the same exact level. We were doing the same exact job in different regions of our company. And to see what she did inspired me to be like, oh my gosh, she just won an award for this same award and for doing what she does. And she added all these extra things to her curriculum. She took courses, she did training, she got all these extra titles to the end of her name, CMP, and all these other things that you can add to your repertoire and your training for becoming more of an expert in your field. And I have to say, she really inspired me. And so then it was kind of like, well, what do I need to do that I need to like build my repertoire, And maybe that's part of why I was taking all these extra training classes and things throughout the time, because she inspired me. So I know you're going to inspire a lot of amazing people as well. But I do want to ask you, I did also notice that you are on the board for Ascend Midwest Pan Asian Leaders. And I want to know what that means to you. And if you could tell us also a little bit more about what they do.
Sure. So Ascend is a national organization that's really geared towards Pan-Asian American professionals. So really, how do we elevate our community here and then also provide a resource for Asian Pacific Islander professionals to advance their careers, business development, really create a network for all of these people. We're about 8,000 members strong nationwide. And we also have student chapters. We have about 45 student chapters. So really not just focusing on professionals, but also our youth. How do we help the youth today to elevate and come into the business, knowing that they can have a mentor, a mentee, or someone they can talk to? So for me, becoming a part of this network was so important. I'm actually a co-vice president of corporate relations and corporate development, which of course, with our sales background and dealing with clients and customers, that was just an easy transition for me. And I joined this organization because it is an opportunity for us to give back. It is an opportunity for us to really come together and for me to be a part of that on the board. It is a voluntary position, so I do give my time to help our community here. And so we've done everything from leadership and development, seminars and sessions to mental health awareness for our community. Since the pandemic, there's been an increase of crimes against our community, about 339% increase in the past 2 years to the Asian American community. So really talking about what does that look like for mental health? What does that mean? We did a workshop in terms of self-defense. So how do we now protect ourselves, right, when we're there? Not that we have to, but it gives you peace of mind to know you're strong, you're a warrior.
I actually think I saw a news piece on this, on the news about this. I wonder if that was your organization teaching self-defense to an Asian community. So I wonder if that.
I got some media highlights there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's amazing because you're working on so many levels with the same thing. You're working right now as your regular company in making a life better for those kids that are going to come up. So you're planting seeds now in the workplace, and you're also helping them at a young level. And then you're also, as a mother, teaching your children, and your children are learning from what you are doing. And it's like, you're making such a beautiful cycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
You know, and
thank
that's what
you.
I wanted to highlight too, is that, you know, even taking on these voluntary leadership roles, you know, you're not making any money doing that, but you have a passion, and, you know, you joined it for a reason, whatever that initial reason is, but you gain so much experience and leadership skills and connections, community connections, by being part of these organizations. And if anybody out there is listening and you have a passion, you know, if you Google something, there is literally an association for everything. As we know in the meetings and events planning business,
100%.
we would get these RFPs from every type of association. Request for proposal from all these businesses that were looking to have conventions and meetings. But
Okay, cool.
I mean, it's like Association of Barbecue grillers. I mean,
No way.
literally,
Yes.
there is an association for
Association
everything.
of Bearded Santas, Ariella.
Yes, yes. I mean, believe me, Anna and I could probably go on the rest of the show and just tell you all these titles.
I could go for a few more. That's pretty fun.
But my point is, taking on these extra leaderships, voluntary roles are really, really important. You know, I've been part of different boards as well, voluntary wise. And, you know, I was part of PCMA, which I know Anna is familiar with. That's Professional Convention Meeting Planners Association. And, you know, I just started getting involved in these groups that became board positions that became, then I ended up becoming president of that association for 1 year. You know, your presidency is 1 year, but the amount of people that I met and the amount of connections that I made, and just the intricate details of planning what the group is going to do for that year, it was just it was so special, and I learned so much from it. So if you can be part of something like that, I highly recommend it. And it can literally be anything. I've also been part of, you know, Toastmasters. I was on that board, and I've been PTA president. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. That was several years. I was secretary 1 year. I was president another year. I did a lot of work when my son was in elementary school. And then all of a sudden he went to middle school, and I showed up for the meetings, but they had it handled. And I was like, I don't have to be part of this anymore. Oh my gosh.
I think we've all been through that for middle school.
And high school as well. You know, I try to be involved as much as I can, but
Anna, don't you find that, you know, it's amazing that you're doing this, and the networking works in so many different ways, and it's charitable, and yet it also helps your business, makes you prominent in the community, so people come to you for business. It's all a wonderful circle, but there is a time issue. I mean, I remember pre-children, I was involved in a lot of things too, right? But you know, for me, I was an opera singer, but I would show up at different conventions, National Association of Teachers of Singing. I know acronyms too. NAM is National something for music. I don't know, but I was in something called Ladies Who Launch for entrepreneurial women, but you know, it is hard as a mom to find the time to do anything extra beyond, especially when we're entrepreneurs. So can we talk about that life balance? Because, you know, giving of your time freely and being an entrepreneur and spending quality time with your kids, and you're paying for things, but yet you still have to get laundry done. But, you know, whether you hire someone or don't, wherever you're at with that, but let's hear what you have to say.
That's a lot, right? It's exhausting even saying it.
yes,
we only probably said this much of it.
Really go through.
Really go through.
Yes,
right. But everyone here who's listening completely gets it. Let's just start there. It's tough. It is tough. And I feel that, you know, I am not the best always at managing everything all at once.
No one is.
And I was also going through this as a single mom when my kids were younger. So realizing even that stress pre being an entrepreneur and even post being an entrepreneur, it's a lot, right? Because you want to be everything to everyone. That's just what we do. Let's just throw it out there. As women, we just make things happen. And so for me, it really has become time management of all those things. I've always raised my hand and said, there's only so much I could do. So on my volunteer roles, I will tell them and be very honest to say, I don't have the time to commit to this at this moment. right? And say,
Mhm.
that's okay. And it's
Yeah.
okay to say that. It's okay for me to say, I'm going to take a vacation with my friends, Mamacation, as I call it, ladies,
Love it.
with my friends every year because
Mamacation.
We
Can we
need one of
plan
those.
one?
Yeah.
Can Momentum go on a mamacation?
Yes.
Mamacation, because we need that. I need a time to be able to do that. I need a time to go with my partner every January when it's cold and gross in Chicago to go somewhere sunny and get some vitamin C, vitamin D, all vitamins in my life.
Yeah.
And to take the time to do that takes you being willing to say, it's important enough for me. For me this year, I'm trying to get on the Peloton bike a little bit more
Oh,
and
honey,
take
I'm
the
doing that.
time
Yeah.
to do reflections or meditations because that helps my mind. So I've even blocked it out on my calendar now because I'll never miss a meeting, but why should I miss anything else that's on my calendar? So if it's for me to go on the bike, or if it's for me to take a walk, or if it's for me to do something for myself, you need a plan for that because it's easy to let everything else come first.
So you literally
So
schedule your
I do.
exercise time or walk time into your calendar.
I will, yes.
Mhm.
And that's
100%.
really, really smart. That's something I keep thinking of doing, yet I have yet to do it. So
Mhm.
you inspired me to do that as
Yeah.
well. But that's amazing. And it is true. You know, we have to balance so much as a mom, but you have to balance so much as a business entrepreneur anyways,
Yeah.
even if you weren't a mom. But so this just adds two
Yeah.
levels
Yeah.
of balancing
Right.
that we need to do. But it's great that you are able to accomplish so much. And I love the idea that you are scheduling the time that you need because, you know,
Care,
self-care is
preservation
so important.
this point.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know, and honestly too, sometimes that means I am doing laundry, but I have earbuds in and I'm meditating or I'm listening
Yeah.
to something that is fulfilling my, you know, my soul. So, so it's so important, but sometimes we just have to fill them in gaps where we have, you know, mommy duties that
Yeah.
we're working on. We can still be doing other things.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear more about, so you start your company. And so from when you started it to where you are today, if you could take us through some of the steps, some of the wins, your growth, just kind of a little bit of the journey of your company so far.
Sure. I mean, I would never have guessed 2 years ago that I would still be standing here as fulfilled as I am today. For both personal and professional life. I love that I've been able to spend time with my kids. I mean, how often when we were working for others, were we able to say, I'm going to take you on a road trip for spring break just
Yeah.
because I can.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with my son to DC because I can do that.
Mhm.
I may have to take my laptop, but I can at least maneuver and figure out ways to do that with my children. I've gotten to know my kids' volleyball teams and soccer teams because I've been able to drive them around. And so I get to know the kids that are hanging around my son. And that's
Yeah.
important to me, and get to know their parents because I'm sitting on the sidelines cheering my kids on. So I think that's a huge win in terms of my personal fulfillment. Professionally, I've been able to have young women professionals as interns. So I'm helping to advance them in their
Ooh.
careers and where they want to go in their lives, and giving them a platform to play and to learn and to grow that's safe, and always helping them along the way. I started a nonprofit called
just that?
MCS.
Oh yes, I was going to ask you about that. I forgot about
See?
that.
Yeah.
I did see that.
So I did start a nonprofit. I remember talking to my CPA and she's like, why would you start a nonprofit? Like, you don't even have a penny in your name yet.
Yeah.
But I said, it was important to me that every minute or every penny that I was able to give back, I will, from the start of this company. So I started MCSQ Scholars. And really, that is a nonprofit that gives back to people who are looking to advance their passions. So one of our mantras at my company is to lead with compassion and live with purpose. So my parents were the first scholarships that I named after, because my dad was an engineer by trade, but his passion was the saxophone and music. He actually went to a college scholarship in the Philippines playing the saxophone. And so the first scholarship was a music scholarship to those, because instruments are expensive, uniforms,
Absolutely.
all of it, right? So if I could even give a little bit back to someone who needs money for that, that's what that scholarship money goes to. My mom is the second scholarship. She was an accountant by trade, and she loves to cook. That's just her passion. She cooks, and that's how she shows her love, right? So the second scholarship is a culinary scholarship, actually going to someone, again, tools, instruments, all of that's very expensive. So how can we get back to passion is why we started that scholarship.
So when you started the nonprofit, I mean, did you like print out pamphlets and make a website and go, how far did you go with it?
We
Found
actually
somebody on the street. Like, do you like to cook?
Use it? Yeah. I mean, so my interns actually helped launch that project for us. They were great at reaching out to schools, social media platforms, reaching out to executive directors at schools or culinary institutes, bands, anything, to try to see how can we get more students aware that something like this exists, where we can get back to communities that are needing it. So that's kind of where it started. And it may be a small percentage that we give back, but everything is something to someone. So that's why we said we would start it. So very proud of that.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
The intern thing is fascinating to me. So, because I've thought about it too, because, especially when you're just starting off, that really could be something that would help both sides, because it's hard when you're brand new to pay people to do stuff for you, but you might be really offering experience. And I always hear about this thing that people have interns. So how did you go about it? How do you get an intern? Like, what qualifies you? I bet there's a lot of people out there who could benefit from that information, like us. Go on.
Ding, like me. So I started, one of my goddaughters actually went to a university in Illinois, and I reached out to her because she was in a business sorority. And I said, do you happen to know of anyone who would be interested? Because I was looking for someone in communications and marketing to help manage our social media, because it's a lot, right, to have to do that. So so is there anyone who is interested in that path who would want to join my team? And she sent out, like they all do now, something on social media to say, hey, anyone interested? And they sent in resumes, and I actually found an intern first that way.
Did you pay the intern, or they start off, do they get credit for school, or how do you do it?
So I've had different kinds. So one was a credit for school. So they had to have an internship also in conjunction with a class that they were taking. So it was both. And then the other ones have actually been voluntary. And so I said, my commitment to you is to help you learn and grow and develop and build your portfolio of what you want to do when you are done with school. And all I ask is for an hour a week, if that.
Oh, that's it.
That's it.
And what's the length of the commitment?
As long as they want. So I've actually had interns with me almost the full length of our existence, so 2.5 years, and some are newer. As they graduate or move on to their careers, we've had new ones come in to help. So it just depends on what they're interested in. So my 2 interns working on the scholarship program actually are looking to get into philanthropic jobs and opportunities in nonprofit. I said, what a great portfolio for you to build, and what a great cause to give back to. So this is helping them to grow in that space as well.
Yeah, you're really inspiring me.
That's brilliant. And it just reminds me, there's a lot of things that I've learned throughout the year, the years, plural,
this
not
year
just this year,
only.
throughout my life, that I've almost forgotten about. So I'm so glad we're having this conversation today, because there are places, and that's a fantastic way to find those interns, but there are places like PCMA who has a student and emerging leaders program. And anytime you need to find volunteers or find interns or people, throughout different colleges, you could even go to places that focus on students, because then that taps into those resources, and you can, also put out a job listing or an internship that, through those organizations as well. So anywhere that you see has student and emerging leaders, you can also piggyback off of what they do and just send it, hey, just send something to them saying, I'm looking for an intern that will, be able to help me with this, and they can shoot it off to their network of students.
Theresa.
Yeah. But see, I wasn't even thinking that.
Yeah.
And there's so much help that we could use with momentum. There's a lot that we've been doing, just getting this thing launched and started and going and building audience and building the momentum that we've already started.
We're creating reels, and we're editing, and we're just doing so much, and it's so much PR that we have to try and figure out, like, how do we make a one sheet, and how do we, you know, and so somebody, maybe an
Just some of these
intern, and
creative forms that we need to create, you know, whatever
Yeah.
it is that we could use some help with. So thank you for that.
that was a great,
Of
you know, it's
course.
interesting because every conversation we have like spurs something in us. We're like, oh, and that's actually how we even started making, or how I started
Mhm.
making reels
Reels,
for
yeah.
us. I was interviewing someone on my other podcast, the Talented Magical Mommies Club, and this woman was talking about reels, and I didn't even know what they were. I didn't even know, and now I make one every day.
Mhm.
So it's, you know, and so now this intern thing, this could change could change the scope of everything for
Yeah.
us. That would be amazing.
And they teach me things every day.
Less stress for Ariella.
100%.
We got a lot going on.
We
What
do.
did you say, Anna? It could do what?
I said they teach me things every day as well,
Yeah.
right? With technology and how they utilize platforms. And I challenge them to come back to me with other thoughts. What can we do? What would you do differently? What does that look like? Be creative, learn, grow. You're in a safe place here, where I think a lot of companies wouldn't necessarily do that. You have to follow the standards. You have to, you know, everything's got to be brand, where I'm like, go play, just don't mess anything up, right?
What an incredible, you must be an incredible boss, because you're really allowing them to flourish and find their own wings. And then you're benefiting from it as well. Wouldn't it great? You must be a great parent as well. If you parent the way you boss, this seems very good to me.
Mom
Lead
boss.
with compassion, right? Lead with compassion
Yes.
and live with purpose. That's
Yes.
why that matters. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all about kindness. You know, the two of us, we talk about it a lot. It's
Yeah.
very important to us to just come from a place of kindness.
Mhm.
So I love hearing that from you.
Yes. I have one more question.
Yeah.
You know, because we kind of touched a lot on this whole meetings and events stuff that you do. But I'm curious, what have you done so far that ties in the, you know, that aspect of the virtual events and conferences, and how are you tying that into what you're doing now with businesses?
Sure. So I've actually helped through the pandemic. It was so hard, right, Theresa? You know, a lot of people were managing, how do we do virtual? How do we do in
Hybrid.
person? What does that look like? Are we still doing it? How many people now? So one of my customers that came to me in the beginning said, you've done meetings, can you help us? So I managed all the virtual executive speakers and breakouts, which is a lot, right? Because you have your keynotes, you have your smaller meetings. And so to be able to do that remotely and to help them have one of their most successful conferences was awesome.
Yeah.
I actually help a executive leadership women's conference plan their annual conference. It's small and intimate, about 30 executive women, and they really help them to grow and develop. And I love that, again, tying it all back together, right?
Yeah.
Helping women, helping executives, being that meeting planner for them, because I understand the language, I understand how it works. So that's actually tied in really nicely to the events portion and in-person meetings. And I'll tell you, Theresa, too, I've done a lot of task force work. So Ariella, a lot of hotels still don't have the right staffing levels that they used to have, or maybe they have maternity leaves or sick leaves or family leaves. So much is happening right now with people's lives. I do a lot of task force support for hotels. So I help connect people that are looking for jobs, find jobs, and hotels that need support, find the right people with experience. So it is a beautiful collaboration of talent with people and needs. So what I love is, especially for moms, a lot of them have needed flexibility. Maybe they've had more kids since the pandemic, or maybe their kids are older and they don't want to work 80-hour weeks, right? In our industry, that's just kind of what happens. So they've found flexibility working with our team, because now they can work remote. They get paid if they're working over 40 hours. They get to spend time with their children. I mean, so many women and men have come to me and said, you don't know what you've done for my life and for my family, because now I have mental health, physical health, financial well-being, all the things that they can still do in an industry they love. So that's just another aspect of sales development and meetings, Theresa, that we've just incorporated into what we do. So everything that I've done is just very passion and purpose driven. And I love, again, that I could still stand here and say what a journey it's been. And, you know, not that it's been easy. We all know none of this is easy, and we learn every day, but to still know that there's purpose and passion in what I do has always been the compass for me, my North Star. So I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And doing all of that, I'm sure you have a lot of different you know, technology, business software and systems that you use. And that's That's very
Yeah.
frustrating because we've come across a lot of technology that we've had to do, even just to, and it's like, oh my gosh, which one do I use? You know,
Yeah.
doing a virtual meeting and even a hybrid meeting, there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that you need to pull in to make that happen.
Yeah.
So how do you go about it? What's your, you know, tips
What are
on
your
finding the
secrets?
right technology?
Help
Like,
us.
tell me more secrets.
I know, tips and tricks.
I mean, technology, everybody has their own platforms, right? But I think the biggest part about all of this is being resourceful. I think as moms, and clearly if you're starting your own company, you've been resourceful, you have the right tools. So it's not having to take on everything by yourself. So I've learned, do I need to do every invoice by myself? Because I don't have a bookkeeper, and how much time does that take for me? So how do I make that a better process? There's so many software companies already existence, QuickBooks, you know, everything that you can use to help with that process. Marketing calendars. So when you are putting together your reels or your information,
Which
Writing
one
it
do you
all
like?
down, writing it all down.
my interns actually utilize one, but there are calendars out there that you can write down, okay, here's what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
And let's put it on paper so that we're not repeating everything every time.
Yeah.
Come May, it's, you know, Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So let's look at how can we now figure out what these celebrations look like and what do your reels look like and how do you
I think we need to go out to eat regularly at all the different Asian restaurants in the
Yes.
neighborhood.
Yes.
So that's how I want to celebrate it. But go on, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many ways to be resourceful out there and so many different things that you can use without having to spend a lot of money in terms of trying to figure out what that looks like. So,
And do you work a lot in social media, or I mean, what are your main, like, are you posting things for people, or is it mainly you're reaching out with phone calls, or what kind of connections are you making?
it's primarily through LinkedIn, only because that's a major platform for a lot of the services that we provide, from
Yeah.
sales, business development, and especially with hospitality. That's pretty much a big resource for us.
It's fascinating how everybody has their little niche of what they work in. You know,
We've kind of had to do all because, you know,
Sure.
literally mom entrepreneurs can be in every industry. So I do have LinkedIn. That's how we connected. And I'm so grateful that you did and reached out. But you know, Ariella's doing TikTok. She's doing Twitter. I don't do those.
yeah, well, because I have a company called Voice Lessons to Go, and it's singing lessons on CD. So I'm going after a completely different audience. I've been doing it for years. I you know, and for the during the pandemic, I kind of shut down, even though I'd had it going on for years, and I came back to life. So it's interesting. I didn't change my trajectory. I just brought life back into it, and I've added some things to it, like this podcast, which is so amazing. You know, and I'm doing maybe public speaking now, and I'm speaking on podcasts, and I'm just trying to fill it out a little more. It's also that mom thing, you know, there's a lot to do with that whole mom thing.
Yes. Even getting ready for this interview today, she was running in the door. We need more milk and eggs.
You're not supposed to tell people. It's not. It's
But
not
this
all
is the
beautiful.
inside- This is the behind the scenes inside scoop.
Yeah, it really is.
How things run, how things work.
Yeah, we have to. It's weird because a lot of times I feel as a mom, I have to squeeze in my career as opposed to having a career in. Well, I would never squeeze in being a mom, but it's like there is that, like, let me just squeeze in my career over here for the next half an hour. No,
I
Not
kind of get
really.
what you're saying.
okay.
I get it. I get it too.
Yeah.
It's a
You
balance,
squeeze
right?
everything in.
Because
Really.
you're trying to give them 100% attention to your children that are around you, but then there's this thing like there's that email, there's a thing you got to respond, but you don't want them to think you're ignoring them. And you know, when they're in school, it's one thing, but outside of school hours, it's hard.
I also have conversations with my kids. Like I have honest conversations, and I said, especially for us, because they were there at the inception of the company, I said, listen, if this is going to happen, we're going to go on our vacations. I'm going to go with you on your trips. I'm going to take you to basketball games or whatnot. Then understand my work doesn't stop because I stop. So know that when I get home, we need to figure out what this looks like because it's important to me as well. So we have conversations in that space because they get it. Like they get it because we have talks around the table. They want to know about my customers. They want to know what's happening. We have a quarterly business review around the table with my associates, and we talk about what's happening. What does that look like? And they give and chime in on advice for my customers too. So it's actually pretty wonderful. But having those conversations with our families and our kids and our partners, to say, there's only so much I could do. I need help, and raise your hand is important.
Mhm, for sure. Yeah, we just just this morning was listening to the episode that launched this morning,
Yeah.
and I was listening to it with my son, and several times I've done that now, and he gives us good tips and advice, and
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey, that's a good one.
Yeah.
We'll have to use that,
Yeah.
so it is incorporating them and just letting them know what you're doing, because it's going to instill something in them, and then down the road they're learning, oh, mom did this, I could do that too.
Yeah.
So it
I
inspires
think
them
it's
down the
exciting for
road.
them. It's exciting for them to see
Yeah.
us flourish and just kind of spread our wings a little bit.
Yeah, it's like but it is like planting seeds in them now for
Yeah.
something that they can do later.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you so much, Anna. It's been awesome. We've taken lots of notes.
Yes.
So it's been great talking with you, and I hope our listeners love everything that they heard as well. And
thank you for kicking off Asian American Heritage Month. It's
Yes.
so important to us, and we're so happy we did that with you. And really, let's continue to celebrate diversity. And if you have a company or a situation where you need Anna's help, reach out. The links are in the description for how you can get in touch with her. If you want to tell us your website, you want to say it out loud?
Sure. It's www.mcsqconsulting.com.
Named after
Awesome.
her boys. I
love
love
that.
that. I love it.
Yes.
It's so great. Well, have a great day in Chicago, and we'll be warm here in California. And we're real excited to know you and know what you do and be in touch continually.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Take
Thank
care.
you, ladies.
Anna. Bye-bye.
Mom and Two passionate and busy moms sharing their quest to achieve entrepreneurial success.